Speaker, the Prime Minister is being dangerously naive on Syria. Yesterday, he said that the United Nations Security Council needed to have a meeting, pass resolutions, hold an investigation to find out who was originally responsible for the chemical attacks against Syrian civilians, including children. Only hours later, the United States launched missile strikes against the origins of those very chemical attacks. Why is it that the Prime Minister continues to put all of his faith in the Security Council, which has failed to confront Bashar al-Assad?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Last night, the United States Secretary of Defense briefed Canada's Minister of Defense in advance of the American military strike in Syria. The Minister of Defense then immediately briefed me. This morning, I spoke with the President directly and emphasized that Canada agrees that Assad's repeated use of chemical weapons must not continue. In the face of such heinous war crimes, all civilized peoples must speak with one voice. That is why Canada fully supports the United States' limited, focused action to degrade the Assad regime's ability to launch such attacks. We continue to support diplomatic efforts with our international partners to resolve the crisis in Syria.
Honourable Member for Carleton.
As does the Conservative Party support the United States missile strikes against the Syrian regime in the aftermath of its chemical weapons attacks on its own civilians. That said, yesterday, that was not the Prime Minister's position. At that point, he said it wasn't even clear who was responsible for the chemical attacks on Syrian civilians, and that the UN Security Council needed to hold another meeting, which would include a veto power by the Russian Federation. Mr. Speaker, when will the Prime Minister stop being so dangerously naive and confront this dictator and this tyrant?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Président, hier soir, le secrétaire d'État américain à la Défense a informé notre ministre de la Défense en avance de l'action américaine militaire en Syrie. Le ministre de la Défense m'a immédiatement transmis l'information et ce matin, j'ai parlé directement au président et j'ai insisté sur le fait que l'utilisation répétée d'armes chimiques par Assad doit cesser. Face à ces crimes de guerre, toutes les sociétés civilisées doivent parler d'une seule voix. C'est pourquoi le Canada appuie pleinement l'intervention limitée et ciblée que les États-Unis ont menée en vue de réduire la capacité du régime Assad de perpétrer de telles attaques. Nous continuons de soutenir les efforts diplomatiques de concert avec nos partenaires internationaux en vue de résoudre la crise en Syrie.
For Carleton.
Mr. Speaker, we now learn that only 5 days after this government provided a $372 million loan to Bombardier, executives at the company decided to pay themselves a 50% pay hike. In addition to retaining the dual share class structure, which allows the billionaire Bombardier-Baudouin family to control a majority of shares with only a minority of stocks. This party wants to bring those executives before a parliamentary committee to answer questions about their conduct. Why won't the Prime Minister support such hearings?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, as Canadians know, we spent many months looking at how best to support the jobs and the economic growth of Bombardier and the aerospace industry in the right way, and we determined that a loan specifically for the C-Series and the Global 7000 airplanes was the best way to go. We believe in the long-term strength of the aerospace industry in Canada. We know it leads to good jobs right across the country and economic growth that benefits the middle class, and that's why we made that long-term loan.